I'm going to call the September 20th, 2022 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board to order. We have a quorum, and we're called to order. Approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to make any changes to the agenda? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Approval of the August board meeting minutes. Does anybody have any adjustments they'd like to make to the August meeting minutes? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the August meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Public comments. We reserve 15 minutes of the board agenda to take comments on items that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody here that would like to take advantage of that 15 minutes?
It's just me.
All right. Okay, if you could just let us know your name and what you're interested in, that'd be great.
My name is Steve Smith. I work.
Hello, Steve.
I was here 2 months ago addressing the Tallies dock issue. So I guess I've been called the official spokesman for our dock, which is next to Tallies. Thank you all again for serving. You could all be home watching The Voice right now on TV, but you elect to be here, so that's a good thing. Needless to say, I was happy when I saw the newspaper article saying that it looks like you folks are finally going to enforce Tallies to do what's right, do the right thing, and just operate within their space. You know, that's all anybody, I think, can ask for. So I guess what I just wanted to put it out there and just ask, at what point are you going to actually enforce the restrictions that I believe you've sent a letter to them about? One, you know, because again, I think I'm a reasonable person, and most people are. The boating season's over, you know, so Tallies, for the most part, is one, you know, for the most part. Yeah, Friday, I mean, I'm taking my boat off the lake, and you know, and most of us will start doing that. But I guess I would like to know that at least you folks are going to enforce that they operate just within their boundaries. That's all we're asking. That they would enforce that, or you would enforce that starting this spring. You know, so I wouldn't expect them to move their docks, you know, right now. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's my first comment or question that I have. And then the second one is, I know in the letter, I believe we're going to tell them to move their dock over, remove the cleats, and put up a parking sign. I would say none of that has been done. I did hear, I watched you folks online, and so people do watch you. But I watched online that, I don't know if you're under the impression they have moved their dock this summer. I would say they have not. So we've got some pictures, dated. So I learned that from last time I was here. So I've got some photos from June, or drone photos. One from June, one from yesterday. And as you can tell by looking at it, nothing's moved. So if you want, I can give them.
Shoot, pass it around. They did take the bend out though, right?
Well, I'll let you look at it, because I have one of the boats there. There's a June picture and a picture from yesterday. And again, without a boat being there, there's about enough room that's about the length of my boat, from behind my boat to their dock. You know, so again, the issue is more so when the dock's tied, or when there's a boat tied up, it's just, we just can't get in and out. So,
Yeah, so actually, Steve, first off, thanks for coming out and talking to us again about it. You know, we've been hearing from people, so we're aware that this is going on. We did talk with Tallies. Our understanding was that, you know, at least from our perspective as well, initially their dock had a bow in it, and based on what we heard from them and what we observed, it seemed like they took the bow out a little bit. But maybe they didn't take it all out, or maybe they didn't take it all out to everyone's satisfaction.
when did you talk to them?
This was June, July.
Late June, 22nd, something like that.
Yeah,
Well, again, I have a before and after picture there. I'll let you determine that.
yeah, and that's good, and we'll
You know,
take a look at it.
As they say,
Steve.
picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So there's,
And also I'll say, you know, we're not happy with it either, and it's one of the things, and again, you know, it's on our top, or under the LUC tonight, so we'll be discussing that. But, you know, next year, you know, to your point, we're getting to the end of the season, and so it's likely that significant change won't occur until next year.
Right.
Next spring,
Yeah.
which is
And-
what you're asking for anyway, so that seems good.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mark and I were talking earlier this spring. I was hoping it would have been taken care of this spring, you know, because it really does take a lot of our enjoyment out of it when we're worried about getting our boats in and out of our slips and
Sure.
being confrontational and asking people to, you know, sorry, you got to move your boat, you know.
Nobody wants that, and I don't think we anticipated that they would tie up like that on that dock, multiple boats.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll
But-
continue working on that.
Yeah, and again, I'm just hoping it gets enforced, you know, and that you folks enforce it. And, you know, and we're not acting like a guard dog without any teeth.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
that's
Because there
reasonable.
comes some point where it's like, come on, you know, just do what's right. Up until this past year, there were no issues, you know. But again, if you give somebody an inch and they take a mile, it is what it is, you know. And you can tell by the photos that, yeah, they basically apparently haven't cared what you folks have said to this point.
Yeah.
And again, I probably ate at Tally's half dozen times myself this year, you know, so I don't wish any ill will against them. But I think their issue was, it'd be nice if they were here, but I think their issue was is they decided to expand their business with their rental pontoons. So when they did that, they needed more space. So they took the dock that used to be right by the ramp, and they just moved it over to the property line and angled it out.
yeah.
So,
So here's the thing, that dock is still within, so there's Whitaker Street, and there's the street end where he's got the
Right.
restrooms and the gasoline.
right,
He leases that from the city.
right,
So that ADUA is his lease. The problem on the other side of the coin is that your docks are too close to that ADUA because you're not allowed to back in and out of somebody else's ADUA. And you have to do that to get in and out. You have to get in and out of
well,
Whitaker.
again, I don't know if that's my fight or not,
No.
but I know our dock is 30 or 40 feet from that property line. His dock is on the property line.
Right,
So,
yeah.
You know,
As the city of White Bear Lake.
I mean, I can't imagine us backing out 40 feet, you know, to where the property line is, if that's what you're saying.
I actually think that some of the docks, the boats on the very end of that dock are actually in the ADUA.
I do. It's tilted too much.
Don't even have to back into it, they're just
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
And Steve, we've had some issues, especially with those two dock owners
Yeah, and
in
I'm
that
aware of
area.
that,
And
too.
right, and so we're working through that, you know, trying to get that area organized a little bit so
Right.
that we don't end up with
Right.
either docks of White Bear putting in a stray dock and impacting Tallies, which happened last year, or Tallies putting in a stray dock and impacting docks of White Bear, which happened this year.
But I would say even what, and I'm not defending our owner by any means, but even when he had that small dock in there last year, it was still in his space on their property line. It wasn't on the property line like Tally's is. You know,
All right.
and again, that's between the owners, and all we care about is we just want to get our boats in and out.
Yeah, and I think
you
that's
know?
reasonable.
And I just don't want to show up next spring and it's like, oh, man, same thing, you know?
Yep. Well, we'll do what we can.
I mean, I liked what you had to say, Mark, you know, is that it's supposed to be a service dock anyway. You know, maybe if they shortened it, or, I mean, there seems to be like, there should be all kinds of solutions other than what they did.
When I spoke to the city, they said that that ADUA was to be used for servicing boats. And put it this way, that dock does nothing but park boats. They're not
Yeah.
servicing,
Yeah.
gassing, fixing, repairing,
Right.
doing any service on any boats
Right.
in that ADUA.
But again, if he operated within his boundaries, this probably wouldn't even come up as an issue.
He is
you know, to
within his
begin with.
boundaries. I mean, he is within that ADUA that he leases.
So you're okay to have your
No,
dock
not-
on the property line?
No, isn't
and-
there
and
some,
angled?
isn't there some rule that you have to be 10 feet off of that property line?
10 feet between structures. No, there's nothing on property lines, just 10 feet between structures.
And according to our owner, supposedly, I thought the DNR sent you folks a letter as well, because according to their permit, they're supposed to be like 15 or 30 feet back from the property line. So
10.
that was my understanding. And they're on.
And then if you look at the city of White Bear Lake, their docks, they're end to end. They are line to line.
Right,
And then Tally's butts up against theirs, so they do
Right.
the same thing to him.
right.
So
Either way, like I say, it's
We think we have a plan to repair your issue.
just so we can look forward to that in the spring. That would be great.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming
Other
out,
than-
Steve.
That's all I got for it. You can save those pictures, or you can give them to Alan if you want. So,
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
New business. Scott O'Connor, a Delwood representative, resigned after the last meeting due to some scheduling conflicts. So Sherry has asked Delwood to look for a new representative for us. So there we go. Thank you, Scott, for your service out there. Unfinished business. Permanent dock permitting status. Mark?
So a letter was sent out to the owner, 4955 Lake Avenue, telling him that all the old posts that are in that brush have to be removed immediately, and that as far, and Sherry's scoured the files, we have no record of ever having a license on that dock. So in the letter, and then it was also stated that you have no license for a permanent dock, therefore, we expect that dock to be removed by ice out. So, because you don't have a permanent dock. And right now, it's not illegal because it's just a dock. And
And Mark, can you just remind us what are the rules for a permanent dock?
so it's $5,000 for the initial permit and then $1,000 a year annually. And it was explained in the letter that there is no grandfathering, that every dock that's licensed has to come up every year for an annual. There's no, you can have this for 10 years. You can, even the city has to put in an application for their docks. So hopefully we get some feedback or compliance. That's where we're at right now.
Okay, any discussion about that item?
Mark, is there a date in the fall in which we go, oh, it's a permanent dock, you didn't take it in?
We've always just gone ice in, like once it's iced in, it's
Okay, well. no,
It's there. I mean, everybody, we don't have any rules on the lake as far as all docks have to be off the lake at this date. Because sometimes it doesn't freeze up until, so there's people who keep their docks out longer than I would, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, if we defined it as freeze up, that should be pretty obvious.
Yeah.
If there's ice around those posts,
Yeah,
then they're in trouble.
yeah.
You should have seen the storm on 91. There were a lot of docks out there.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Halloween.
Yeah. Mark, is that dock, does it have some type of lighting on it or safety stickers? Or, I mean, if it's going to stay out in the winter, it should, shouldn't it?
Well, it can't stay out, well, unless we approve
not-
it.
if it's
It can't
not
stay out
removed.
this winter. Unless we approve it, it can't stay out this winter.
But if he doesn't take it in, it will be out.
He would have to put, yes, something on the end, but there'd be a lot of fines
Okay,
if he keeps that thing out there all winter.
okay.
Any other questions on that item?
And the original dock never had a 5K permit, ever.
You want to grab me,
Sorry.
And you never found anything on the original permit?
Couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
Sherry, might she talk to somebody from, what, Ramsey County?
Ramsey County said that that's been there longer than the house has.
Well,
Abandoned dock has been there longer than the house has. And that is, Ramsey County was going to email us.
I think that went into the trout, didn't it? Because that used to be the Burke's house. Mike, I don't know. I thought that went in a long time ago.
It's Christensen now.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Okay, thank you, Mark. On to reports and action items. Executive Committee, the Executive Committee didn't meet this month, so no report. And Lake Quality Committee, Mike.
Lake quality. Lake level today is 923.01. Last month, it was 923.23. And last year, in September, it was 923.66. So the whole, well, so far, since summer started, it stayed in the 923 group. It might not make it into October, but it's hanging in there, 923.01. Lake temperature is 70 degrees today. Last year, it was 69 degrees, and last month, it was 71 degrees. So it really hasn't changed too much. Usually, you would expect it a little bit colder, but we've had some nice weather. I think we're going to get some cold weather now. Phragmites survey was done the end of August. We have, they put together the survey map digitally, the GPS points. I've renewed the permit from the DNR. I've talked to Lake Management for the treatment, which will take place sometime this week. They haven't gotten back to me. I said, email me when you know the day you're going to be out there, and then I can forward it to Meredith if anybody is, looking to think what's going on out there. It appears that last month I asked for $2,000 for the treatment. The last 2 years prior to this year, Anoka County had been paying for it, so I hadn't really seen the final bill for 2 years. I think I came up maybe $1,000 short. So we found 3/4 of an acre last year. We found a half acre this year. The price went up on the product that they used to treat it. So I'm going to make a motion. Last month I made a motion and got to spend up to $2,000. We have budgeted $2,500, had budgeted in the past $2,500, I mean. And that's going to be a little short. I think this year I'm estimating it to be about $2,763. But I could be wrong. They might find a little bit more if they go outside some of the surveyed areas. The DNR gave us a permit to treat up to 2 acres, so, just want to get rid of it, so they might treat a little bit more than what I'm anticipating. So I'm going to ask for another $1,000. So I'm going to make a motion to increase the amount for Phragmites treatment by $1,000, bringing that to a total of $3,000. And that will come out of account number 6045.
6045? 6045?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to increase the Phragmites treatment budget by $1,000 for a total of $3,000. Is there any discussion? And Mike, I'll start. If it does go to 2 acres, do you have an estimate of what the cost would be at 2 acres?
It's about, their bid is $900 for 9,000 square feet.
Oh,
We have 27,000 square feet.
got it.
So and an acre is 43,000 square feet.
So it'd be a lot more.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, it would be.
So a half acre is 2,700, so times 4?
Yeah. So, times 3. So I went to 3,000 just in case they find a little more.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
That's it.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is the Lake Utilization Committee. Mark?
First one is 3015 Wildwood Avenue follow-up. Letters were sent to 309 Wildwood and 321 Wildwood, asking them next year to stay within their ADUA. Any questions about that? All right. Tallies, we kind of went through that. We've asked them to do some things. They haven't done it. Whether who's right or who's wrong, I think we have some photos here that were taken yesterday. And wait for those to pop up.
Well, we did have photos, what the heck?
That's okay. Essentially, that dock was fairly new this year. Council and I were down there. Well, he was flying a drone, I was just with him. But Mr. Dannert came out and spoke with us and said that he wants to comply, he wants to do everything right, but everything we've asked him to do, he pretty much is not. As stated before, when I spoke to the city, they informed me that that lease states that the ADUA for the Whitaker Street is only for servicing boats, and as far as I can tell, that dock services no boats. So I think next year there's probably going to need a different configuration. Yeah.
Pictures I took last night, literally about this time, and I took them in such a way, as you can see, the cleats are still present and no signage that I could find anywhere on the dock. So those are my only two things that I was looking for.
And they haven't numbered their slips, which was part of their permit.
And did we send a letter asking them to remove the cleats and put up the no parking, or was that a verbal request that we made?
I think it was just verbal.
Verbal?
That was a letter from August.
Oh, okay. So
There was no date as to take it off by this time, but there was a letter sent.
Okay, thank you,
Got it.
Sherry.
Thank you.
So we have verbal and written, and still no compliance. So.
Okay.
MPQD Rentals, I spoke with them. I asked if they were renting the jet skis. He said, we have been, because people have been almost demanding them. He said that they keep at least one there because they run a full service business. So if somebody who needed bait or wanted them to run into town and pick up some food or something like that, they would jet ski it out to the boat. So that's why they keep or if somebody has a problem, they can just shoot out there and help them with the boat. And then he said people have been just demanding, like, hey, we really want to rent that jet ski. So he said, we just started doing it. So I told them to cease and desist that until they've amended their permit. Sherry, did they put in, no?
I haven't seen one yet.
Okay. So, but then on the other side of that, he said, but there's other companies doing this. Are there any other companies that are licensed by the White Bear Lake Conservation District? And I said, not that I know of. He goes, there's plenty of people dropping boats, because we can tell, because they're showing them how to operate the boat after they drop it in the water. So we know they're doing it. And we definitely got some pictures, and even on the website of there's a company from last month that rents the kayaks out, so they're doing it. So apparently, there's like, and we discussed this before, like best I can describe it, an Airbnb boat service where people just go online and they rent their boats out and they'll drop it in Minnetonka or White Bear Lake or Crystal Lake in Burnsville or wherever. And so that's something new that we have to deal with. My point on these folks is they're trying to do the right thing. But that's where it's at. I've told them they can't, it's not on their application to rent jet skis. We have no insurance information about it, so they can't until they've amended their application. And again, I'm sure that being this might be one of the last 80-degree days we have, that they probably just figured they're done for the season, and next year they'll put in a new app.
Yeah, for these other guys who are doing it unlicensed, I mean, the transaction is made on land mostly, and then they
I would think so.
put the boat in the water
Right.
from land. So to what extent would we be working with, the, say, City of White Bear Lake Police or whomever, rather than Ramsey County for enforcement?
We could ask. I don't know if they have time for that, but we could definitely ask. Or if people report it, like, hey, this boat, and here's the boat number, we saw they're, doing business on White Bear Lake. So like you said, it's on land. This NPQD is also, I'm sure they're not making transactions on the water. They're probably made before the people even get to the lake. So I don't know, that's just a lot of information and not a lot of answers, other than they've been told to cease and desist from renting the jet skis.
Alan, do you have anything to add to this discussion?
Chair and board, I don't know if it's something to add, but it would be something to think about. So as I look at the regulations, the board obviously is in charge of activities and structures in the lake. So the licensing of docks over a certain volume, the licensing of docks in Commercial Bay makes sense. And some folks that come here and prosecute their business on the water, the people like my boat club that keep their boats on a dock, I think do they use docks of White Bear? Or do they use tallies? I can't remember. Anyway, that outfit rents slips from one of the commercial operators. We therefore in turn license them as a business. They're always there. And so this is almost more like a transient merchant. That boat goes wherever someone wants it, whether it's the St. Croix, whether it's White Bear, whether it's Big Marine, wherever it's rented, that's where it goes. And so I think it would almost mean a different or a new regulatory regime that you'd have to adopt in order to license those folks, because they're not technically doing anything more than bringing things that are just here for a few hours to the lake. So I don't think that we have anything that would fit in as a slot as far as what we license right now. I can be convinced otherwise, but as I read the ordinances, I don't think that we could.
It just seems like it'd be really tricky to, hate to use the word catch, but catch everybody.
Yeah, we'd have
that's
to
out there
issue
doing-
stickers. I mean, it would be like one of those things where it's like if you're going to use the stadium, you have to have a parking sticker sort of a thing. If you're going to use the lake, we need to have a sticker on your rental craft that says that you've come here and gotten your license. So I don't know how else you'd do it, and the city of White Bear, they would consider them a transient merchant too, right? They're dragging stuff to town, they're using the roads, they're using whatever, and benefiting from public safety and paying nothing. So that's the deal. So it's, those who travel more, what's the rental car group now where you can rent someone's personal car? You go to another Turo? Yeah, it's almost like the Turo of boats and jet skis, right? You go to the lake, someone brings their personal boat over, lets you use it, and then you give it back to her when you're done. And so I just don't think that fits conveniently into what we do right now. So a good subject for an exec over the winter to see if we want to take charge of that, but I would think that the city of White Bear would like to get their teeth on that too.
Yeah, also, we received a complaint from a resident wondering how public property could be used for a private business. And I sent an email back, I copied the Conservation District, so it's on file, but just saying that we have nothing to do about the land, it's the water. So we're limited to what's happening on the water. Anything happening at that boat launch is the city of White Bear Lake, and your letter has been forwarded to the city of White Bear Lake.
Yeah, and that's no different than someone renting something for a kid's party, bringing a pony to a public park or something like that. It's the same thing. So it's public space. So, and we have nothing to do with it. That's what I'm saying. The city might be interested in regulating where they do what they do, but I don't think it falls under our, sort of jurisdiction.
Back to your one question then. For the Commercial Bay, you brought up like Because I was looking at a site, there's like boats at Tallies that people are renting their own stuff, just even online. So if they're not permitted, or let's say they're in Commercial Bay, but they're renting their boat out of that, would that be a problem?
It's not now because we license those folks.
Oh, no. Let's say not Get Your Boat Club. Let's say it's just a private owner renting his boat out of Commercial Bay.
Yeah, I mean, technically, if you've got a boat sitting down there and you want to, put a couple $100 in your pocket by renting it out to a friend, I
That's
don't know
fine.
how on earth we would ever monitor that.
Got it.
I'm sure that there are folks that park boats on private docks, and, to Mark's point, he said it before, over the summer, no one owns 4 pontoons, but there's plenty of docks out there that have 4 pontoons on them. So, you can scratch your head and wonder what they're doing, but, it's just one of those things that we don't actively patrol and police. So, but if you run the Reggies, I'll bet you that one of them probably shows up at that address, but I'll bet you 4 of them don't. So, anyway, it just depends on what your appetite is for regulation, really. So,
Mike?
Does NPDQ have a permit from the city?
I doubt it. I mean, we don't know, right?
I know they were talking to them back when they were talking to us as well.
I would think so, and this is just, and I don't know how they police it anymore, and I think I said this last time, but that, you have to have a permit just to park at that boat launch from the city.
At the public one.
Yeah, at Mataska.
A
You have to
sticker.
have a permit from the city just to park your vehicle there. So if they're parking their truck there with the trailers, then I'd imagine they've got a license to be there.
Or they just drop off the
Or they drop off and
unit,
park the trailers
and
somewhere
then they
else,
come
yeah.
back 4 hours later or whatever and pick up the boat.
I don't think the county allows it,
What's that?
people to use the county for rental.
Right. I wouldn't think so.
No, and I'm surprised the city does.
Well, it's like I said, nothing we're going to solve tonight. So if we want to do
Yeah.
it as an over-the-winter project, it's
And like I
certainly
said, they're
something
aware now because they've been forwarded that letter.
something worth looking into. I mean, how we want to handle it, because it's obviously increasing pressure in a negative way for some residents that actually live here. So it's worth looking into.
It's because there was one in the White Bear Press that we didn't personally get. Because I knew the person that wrote it was a letter to the editor about how they could do that off a public area, and that it was really, they were pushing their boat in where people were waiting to
Yep.
land their boat or take their boat out, and these people just took up a space for a long time.
Oh, sure.
I think we got a complaint, was it about the kayaks that were being rented, just beached up along the shore? And that was directly through the website or phone,
Somebody sent us a photo of that.
through the email, yeah. So it's an issue, so
Okay,
I think Meredith had something to.
Could we reach out to the other conservation districts and see what they're thinking about, or
We certainly
if they
can,
have
that would
any
be one.
ideas?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I will.
I can call them, I talk to them every couple times a year. I can call and see what they're doing about private
That.
boat rentals.
Yeah, that's great.
And it certainly helps that they've got Hennepin County running full-time, right, on the lake. So when someone sees something, someone's there pretty quick, so.
Okay, so Mark will call them or touch base with them and find out what's going on?
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. Okay, anything else on this item? Then we'll move on. Okay.
Okay. The last one we discussed in our earlier meeting, 4955 Lake Avenue. They've been sent a letter saying that, there was an old dock, and then they're putting in a new dock. There's still some pilings from the old dock in there. They were told to remove those immediately. And then, as far as the new dock, they were informed that there is no grandfathered docks. It doesn't matter how long the dock has been there, and by the way, this one's new. And secondly, that we have no record of ever being a permanent structure being licensed at that property. And so that they're not out of compliance now because they just have a dock. But they were told that that dock has to be out by ice in. Otherwise, it will be ticketed, and the fine is up to $700 a day. And also, we're sent the application if they wanted to apply. And I also let them know that on the top of that application, or on the back page of the application, it shows the the fee structure for permanent docks into the lake, which is $5,000 to install and $1,000 annually, and that all of those docks come up annually. There's no grandfather. Every year it's going to come up. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay, any questions for Mark?
I have one question, but it's not regarding 4955.
Okay.
I'm wondering about going back to tallies. When we looked at those pictures, the White Bear docks, they definitely have their dock not parallel to the dock, but moving diagonally towards that dock.
Yeah, they're along there. They're going out from their shoreline, but
It's not.
it's a bowl.
Yeah, but he's really got it pushed towards their ADUA and occupying it. And so at some point, do we have to let McGoldrick know that he needs to straighten those out?
Yep.
And
Or not encroach on the Whitaker ADUA. He should put his docks in such a way where the boats can back out and go out on the lake without backing into the Whitaker ADUA.
Okay. Having had that problem myself and having to move my dock mid-season, I wasn't encroaching on anybody's ADUA because I couldn't use that side of my dock, but I still had to move it and straighten it out. So I think the fact that it needs to be straightened is really important.
Which dock straightened?
McGoldrick's.
That outside one.
The outside one has to be straightened out.
It is straight. I mean, if you look, it goes straight out. There's no curve in it. Like Tally's
No.
put his out first, he curved it.
But no, but where it goes off from the beach, it's crooked already. That's why it's ending up in the ADUA.
Yeah, because where he's at the curve of the lake, so if he goes straight out from his, yeah, he's going to go that way. Otherwise, he's not going straight out, and he's pointing it towards Lions Park.
Okay, but he needs to not having it be going towards their ADUA and encroaching on their
He
ADUA.
just needs to have it so those boats can get in and out without encroaching the ADUA, yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, any other questions for Mark? All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Next, Lake Education Committee, Scott?
Yeah, our Adopt a Drain Challenge, we're up to 486 adopted drains in the communities around the lake. Our goal is 589 by the end of October. And it looks like we're maxing out. But I think the good news is like City of White Bear Lake, they're within 8 drains of doubling where they started.
Nice.
So, and I think the township is like 14 away. So there is a strong possibility that 1, maybe 2 of the cities could effectively double within this period. But I do think that we are maxing out on this because the curve is flattening. So for that reason, I think we would not try this again next year because we will be maxed out. So that's the way I'm looking at it, is we've accomplished a lot this year. I got a note back from the White Bear Lake city manager saying she's really excited how they're making their goal. And I said, well, not quite yet. You've got 8 more to go. But there will be an update in the quarterly city newsletter. So that's the way that's going. Social media.
I didn't get as many posts as I planned since the last meeting, but I'm going to get back on it. We put something up about the Phragmites treatment this week. I still need to get a post about the grants for shoreline stabilization and about registering buoys. And then anything else you guys would like to go up, I'm happy to put up. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, the Treasurer's Report. Mike?
Treasurer's report is in front of you, that nice colorful yellow and blue piece of paper. In the income, we got a lot of income this month. City paid their second half on the dock. Delwood paid their assessment. We got a $7,500 check from the state of Minnesota, the DNR to be specific. And so they paid the grant on the Eurasian Water Milfoil. Our expenditures are usual for the month, so I would like to make a motion that we accept the report and pay check number 4787 through 4794.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report and payment for those checks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes.
Okay, the USGS survey account status, that $599 that we're trying to get rid of. Sherry forwarded some information right after the last meeting on the terms of the acceptance, or the terms of collecting the money, and it was for lake level study, and it was to be paid to the USGS survey. So it was pretty clear that Diane knew what she was talking about. That's the way it had to be spent. I talked to Perry Jones several times during the month, and he cannot help us. He's retired, and they have an agreement that you don't, for 2 years, you can't go back and access their records. So I have a call into USGS. The person that they suggested would handle this is based out of Colorado, and he has not called me back. So I'm going to keep trying, but there's got to be a way.
To get rid of money.
I'm
Not a
trying.
problem, yeah.
Just trying to clean up the books.
But it is government, right? So there's
Got to be for lake level, and it's got to be lake level study, and it's got to be made to the USGS.
And if, and so is the issue with Perry that he hasn't been retired and away from them long enough?
Yes.
And if he were away from them for 2 years, then he would be in a position where he could help us? Or is that not the case?
I got the impression that it wasn't enough money to go back and the past.
Got it.
Not to mention the fact we'd still have to pay USGS and then they'd have to pay him.
Yeah.
Yes. That was the biggest problem. He was going to make some calls, but there was nothing. Because, excuse me, I think last month I had mentioned that they used to have a Minnesota office and all that. Now they've combined Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota. I don't know about the Dakotas and that, into one office. And the guy I'm talking to now is out of Colorado, so you know how that goes.
All right, so we'll wait and see if we hear something back from Colorado.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. There was, suggestion, one of them is that they have some nice maps of the aquifers and the lake and all of that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, okay, that's kind of interesting. We'll see. We'll let you decide, see what's available.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody wants to spend any more money on that kind of stuff or not, but.
I think it'd be really interesting, and I think we would get some people from the community that would be interested in hearing, just a brief summary of what they found. I think most people have an idea about that, but it's been a couple of years now, or a few years, and what we might do in the future when we start seeing the level drop again, or if there is anything we can really do.
Their work terminated about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, so we wait. Let's see. Well, thanks for checking on that. Any questions for Mike? All right, thank you, Mike. Board council report. Alan?
Thank you, Chair and Board. I think Sherry's been bird dogging this along with me. We now exist as far as the FBI is concerned, by the way. So don't ruin it. This is not having to do with the FBI, but it's a little treat at the end of my report here. Anyway, as many of you know from last month, we really didn't exist as a charging entity by the grace of the BCA. And once they started licensing everyone that needed the ability to charge through their system, had to have what's called an ORI, which is issued by the FBI. And so we undertook to get that process rolling, and I think it was just within the last 10 days or so, we got all of the paperwork to them. They submitted it to the FBI, and the FBI, of course, said, "What are you people?" So Karen, who's my contact at BCA, basically said, well, they're just like these other people, basically the Minnetonka district, and because the FBI thought there was nothing like us. And so they said, no, you've already done this once before. And because there's only one other one, they didn't have them just ready at their fingertips. So we proved that we exist, and we proved that we're just like them. And I pointed them in the direction, sent the link to the statute that created the district, basically. And so we now exist for purposes of the BCA. So that's good, and hopefully we can withstand the motion to dismiss, because what we're waiting on is a charge for a gross misdemeanor that goes back a couple of summers now, because we haven't had the ability to do that. So on a brighter note, we got rid of a very offensive item from the lake this last month, and this happened over the weekend, so I thought I'd show you the video of what a very large floater in White Bear Lake looks like with our local gendarmes doing the dirty work. So I got a call from the sheriff's deputies on Sunday, and that was a complaint that was made by one of the residents that's over off of Memorial Beach. And so it was caught up right at the edge of the swimming buoys. And so I don't know if it was lodged. I mean, it's big, and it probably is now waterlogged. So whether it was floating or not, it was out there. The initial part of the video, or at least one of the other photographs, showed it about 2/3 of the way out in the swimming area. And so they mobilized the shock troops, and this is what you do when you got a floater in White Bear. So I thought I'd share the video with you guys, so it's only a couple of days old. But anyway, I asked them if it resisted arrest. Apparently it went quietly.
Oh, we're an easy crowd.
Oh. Anyway, I would stand for questions.
Any questions for Alan?
How much does it cost to be known by the FBI? Is there a
We are
cost to
going to pay a
that?
nominal amount to be recognized and be able to use their platform, their system. And so that's not a charge that the FBI has, that's a charge that the BCA has for just maintaining the database. And the reason why it matters, of course, is for criminal history points and for finding fugitives, all the things that the FBI does. They like to know who's being charged and whatnot. So that's all about just crime statistics and tracking that they do. So that's why there's just this hierarchy of keeping track of this stuff.
Is it a yearly fee?
That I can't, well, maybe it might be $100, $150, I think, a year,
Okay.
something like that. They'll start generating bills, and then Sherry will get them. So they'll probably show up on a report that Mike would generate for us.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I just can't remember if it's based on population or if it's just everyone pays the same to be managed in their database. But we'll find out, because we'll end up signing an agreement with them now that we exist.
Any other questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan. Announcements. Sherry, do you have any announcements?
I do not, except for that I did purchase a locked file cabinet, but it is forever stuck on this floor until the elevator gets fixed, so it's been 2 weeks since the elevator's been out. Still looking for computers and other things, but, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Have we figured out what to do with this extra desk that you have down there?
We have not. I'm not worried about it right now. We'll figure it out. It doesn't look like anybody's available for the cleanup day, so it might be a Junks R Us person to come pick it up. I'm not sure. But I do have plans I'll bring to you later about getting the office refreshed.
Okay, that sounds good. Any questions for Sherry? Okay, we're to item 10, adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all.